Guys, I've made a huge revelation recently. Nintendo is greedy. I know, I'm probably the first person in the world who has actually realized this. I never see anyone bringing this up. I'm so glad that I can lead the charge on this pressing issue. Also, if you buy their console, you were a mistake, your birth was a mistake, your family was a mistake, and you should die a violent death.
Oh no. Anyway, last week...
GamerCube.
So when I put out my video about Nintendo YouTubers and the art of entitlement, a relatively common archetype of comment I got on that video were from people wondering why I wasn't really talking about Nintendo grifters. Basically, people that alter the narrative surrounding Nintendo to make it seem like they're worse than they actually are. I do understand to an extent why these types of comments exist. Nintendo has been the target for a lot of backlash ever since the very first Switch 2 Direct. And I would argue that the majority of that backlash has been justified. And a lot of it they completely brought onto themselves. I think it was absolutely ridiculous that Nintendo decided that Mario Kart World should be priced at $80 for basically no reason, and then basically shoot their fanbase in the foot shortly after release, only to mildly course correct afterwards. The fact that the majority of physical games that are releasing on the Switch 2 basically boil down to nothing more than digital downloads on a cartridge is a very sad reality for physical collectors and is completely antithetical to preservation, which is a topic that I plan to cover more in detail in a future video. I think it's dumb that there is an entire button on the controller locked behind an internal paywall, gatekeeping valuable information behind a phone app that barely anyone outside of the hardcore Nintendo faithful are gonna use is really silly and only helps to further spread misinformation. Nintendo trying to patent a basic gameplay mechanic purely to spite a successful competitor is incredibly draconian and dystopian, and I'm so glad that has been challenged in court. Nintendo can and should be put to task for all of this and then some. If you clicked on this video or my Nintendo YouTubers video and just assumed that I was running blatant defense for the company, that was not the intention. My intention with the Nintendo YouTubers video was to talk about how a lot of the criticism was being misplaced by people acting like they're bored with the console despite their incredibly limited gaming palettes, or complaining about games for simply just existing because they either aren't big enough or they are not what they specifically want. That is what I meant by the art of entitlement. But on the flip side, you have a group of grifters out there that use the more valid arguments against Nintendo and then radicalize them to push an easy narrative that everything about Nintendo sucks now, and that if you like even just one thing from the company somewhat mildly, you're automatically branded as a consumer. And so I think a lot of people that really resonated with the YouTubers video just wanted the satisfaction of me ripping these guys apart. So you may be surprised when I say that I don't particularly care about these guys, like at all. Let me explain why I feel this way by describing the biggest example a lot of people were referring me to, NintenDeen. And I have to make clear again before I start, do not harass people. It doesn't matter if I like or dislike someone, I have a zero tolerance policy when it comes to brigading. I do not make videos to start drama, I am simply here to inform people of a point. That is it, and if you think any differently, I don't want you here. If you bother these people, I will ban you. With that said, NintenDeen is a creator that I've been familiar with for quite a while now. He got to start doing general Nintendo retrospectives, usually Mario ones, and yet as soon as the very first Switch 2 Direct happened, and he saw the ridiculous prices that were on display, his channel did a complete 180 overnight, and now 95% of his videos are just him talking about how bad Nintendo is now. Occasionally, he will put out a video that talks about legitimate problems with the Switch 2, but most of the time, his videos are just doom post after doom post, and primarily just copy-paste videos altogether, with him primarily complaining about low sales numbers, which have already been proven to be not true, reporting on scary headlines and not bothering to correct himself when he's misinformed, and conveniently leaving out any sort of positive press that Nintendo gets because they can't fit into his narrative. For example, the last one, he made one video about Donkey Kong Bonanza and its performance problems, talking about how the frame rate rate goes down just a little bit, very rarely, when there is a lot of action going on, and then he never brought up the game again because it turns out the game was fantastic. He never made a single video talking about Kirby Air Riders other than it being apparently the holiday AAA title, because the game ended up being so high quality that even the grifters who basically hate every single game in existence now couldn't find a single thing to knock that game down a peg for. His channel in general is just very disingenuous, and even if you are anti-Nintendo, there are way better places to get your information. But the reason why I don't have the energy to really be upset at him for running his channel this way is because there's basically no nuance to it. His channel is basically a niche that doesn't appeal to anyone that hasn't already subscribed to the Nintendo bad sphere. And if you're someone that can clearly see what I see just by scrolling through the guy's channel page, I don't think that makes for a very interesting discussion. And that's how I feel about most grifters in general. Not only because I just couldn't care less about what random people I don't care about have to say about products that I can clearly form my own opinions on, but also because in general they're just so predictable. These guys are not interested in reporting the news fairly and accurately. They simply exist to sell you on an emotion. I think it's just naturally in our blood to feel like we're all a part of a greater cause. And sticking it to the man, or in this case, the big bad corporations, is just a natural feeling I think a lot of us stand by. And so hearing about something that will get you fuming and ready to fight, even if it's not true, just does a lot for people, particularly ones with fragile egos. And so these guys managed to find a way to tap into the anger of these people by basically just telling them what they want to hear, regardless if it's factual or not. And the reason why I just don't think it's worth expending my energy just ranting about these guys nonstop is because what is there for any of us to gain from it? The types of people that regularly watch and support their channels have already made up their minds, and the types of people that are against these channels, like me, well, there's not really any value out of me regurgitating your own opinions. It's just like what I said about NintenDeen. If you can see what I see just by looking at these guys' channels, then I really just don't think it's worth the time to state the obvious just to get some brownie points. Nothing that I personally say is gonna change the discourse for the better, and I think that's why a lot of people wanted me to even talk about these guys to begin with, because I think some people see me as a martyr now to try and put a stop to all of this. And there's been a number of other YouTubers that made videos talking about why the Nintendo negativity grifters are just so bad and they need to be stopped. And my question to them is, what are you trying to accomplish when you make these videos? I've been making YouTube videos for close to 16 years of my life now. So I've been on the internet for a really long time, and I'm telling you now, there have been so many people before you that have tried to change discourse for the better. There are gonna be many more people after you that are gonna try to change discourse for the better. I'm telling you now, it never works. And there are always gonna be people out there that exist to get you upset and provoke you. So the best thing that you can do is ignore them and not give them the satisfaction of trying to dunk on you. That, and it doesn't help that a lot of these grifters, not all of them, but a lot of them promote really blatant anti-woke propaganda in their videos, to the point where even if they're not directly saying the quiet parts out loud, that attracts audiences that promote so much hate speech that it makes a lot of minorities, even those that typically agree with what they have to say about greedy corporations, not feel like they are safe within their communities.
I was scrolling down and I noticed a few comments about Donkey Kong Bonanza and a review of that. And I start seeing these awfully racist and bigoted comments about George Floyd, and I just thought to myself, I was like, this comment section isn't a safe place for me. And as somebody who's Black and enjoys video games, I have to look twice as hard to try to find video game communities and spaces that aren't bigoted or don't treat people like me like their death as a joke. It's a constant reminder of how hated we are in spaces that we enjoy, and how much people take pleasure in demeaning and dehumanizing this very community.
And quite frankly, any space, especially a space as diverse as video games, gatekeeping or demonizing normal human beings just being happy as they are is objectively not a space worth giving any of your time. Video games are for everyone, regardless of their race, gender, identity, disability, etc. And the existence and the stories of people that don't look, sound, or act like you are just as valid as anyone else's and is not a matter of political opinion. And believing anything otherwise is a level of toxic masculinity that has zero place in a healthy environment. And if any of what I just said is enough to upset you, well, the dislike button is down below and the door is that way. Don't let it hit you on the way out. And on that note, definitely go and give Kelderwatt your support. She's made a number of negative videos about Nintendo, but they've come from a very authentic place where even if you disagree with her, you can at least understand where she's coming from, and she's just fun to listen to. Check her out and tell her I sent you. But I think above all else, the reason why grifters should not be given the time of day is because their goals are so shallow. It's not about bettering the gaming industry for anyone. It's not about being honest and truthful. It's about one thing and one thing only. And I'll let Mr. Scott the Blood Clot explain it to you in just 4 simple words.
Do you want to know why people are actually doom and gloom? Because they get clicks.
Yeah. Of course.
That is the reason why grifters do what they do. Do you really think they would be spreading propaganda the way they do if it wasn't a super lucrative business venture for them? The sad fact of the matter is that with anger being such a powerful and potent emotion, it is just super popular for people to hate on stuff, with or without reason. It's like I said earlier, people love to dunk on things in order to feel better about themselves. And so it's just cathartic to hear someone else be right there with them in that frustration. There's no need to cover positive stories out there because it's not going to further a movement or make the viewer feel important. And it is equally as important to provoke others that disagree by shaming them, dehumanizing them, or anything in between, even if all they did was just buy a video game that they liked. You're not allowed to have fun anymore because you can't be angry when you're having fun. Which is why you see a huge amount of people trying to defend themselves from these guys, whether it be in the comment sections or full-on video responses, without realizing that they are indirectly feeding the system that earns those guys those clicks in the first place. The sad fact of reality is that negativity just sells way more than positivity. And even beyond starting movements or provoking people, negativity is typically just really entertaining for lots of people out there. It's so easy to dunk on bad things and get a laugh out of them. It's why videos about the worst games of the year tend to get a lot more views than videos about the best games of the year. Because it is just so easy to look at something and go, this is bad, and laugh at it. It is a tale as old as time. You can even go as far back as 2006 when the angry video game nerd hit the scene. And regardless if you like the AVGN or not, the fact remains the same. Riffing on and complaining about bad things, or in this case, bad media, is an incredibly easy form of entertainment, which never has been and never will be the same thing as enlightenment. And I think that this mindset that the majority of people have is a huge reason why so many of them are just so cynical about modern gaming or just the world as a whole. Because yeah, when you get sucked down these rabbit holes of negativity, of course those feelings of joy are gonna be much more sparse for you if they're even there at all. And when so many people just want to bring you down to your level, whether it be through doomer mindsets, Ragebait, or just blatant hate speech, it generally makes it a lot harder for most people to see the forest for the trees. It's all about getting you hooked on a feeling without letting you go. Getting hooked, lined, and sinkered into this trap of engagement is exactly what these people want. And there's a great video from this channel called The Retro Sofa that goes into a lot more detail about how the instant dopamine rush of rage, addiction, or anything everything in between has sucked the soul out of modern gaming, with the mission being that subscribing to the machine is way more important and a way more valuable use of your time than actually enjoying the medium that made you even find the machine in the first place.
The overwhelmingly negative and sometimes AI-generated content, the soulless content on these short-form video platforms, even if it's about video games, isn't encouraging you to play video games. If anything, it's about putting you off video games so you stay on TikTok. The algorithms care about one thing, and that's keeping your eyeballs on the platform. And if the content they pushed made people actually want to play some of these games, well, they wouldn't be on TikTok anymore, would they? They don't want you playing games. They want you getting angry about games. And that anger is going to be the addiction.
And that is 100% facts. Believe me, I've been there. I know this from personal experience. And realizing that and pulling yourself out of it before it sucks your soul dry is the best thing that you could do so that you don't end up hating video games altogether and eventually yourself. Bill's video is absolutely phenomenal, and I will leave a link to his video and his channel in the description. If you love retro gaming, he is one of the best places you can go to right now. That is the reason why I don't care about Nintendo grifters, because the majority of what they make is blatant propaganda to get you to feel emotional and engage with what they're doing, whether or not you even agree, not to promote an actual discussion. Because answer me this, do you really think that someone is making a video that looks like this and responds to even the most mild disagreements with temper tantrums like these and genuinely believes that they are approaching the conversation in good faith? No. It's all about playing aside and pushing an easy narrative. And by clicking on their videos to get angry about them, you are indirectly encouraging more of those kinds of videos to exist. That's not to say that you should never criticize Nintendo. I think it is incredibly important for people to criticize any product they see. Companies are not your friends. They are there to simply sell you a product. You buy the product if you think it's worth it to you, and that is literally all they care about. But you have to discern the difference between real criticism that is actually worth listening to and just blatant rage bait. And if you take away anything from this video, I hope it's that. If someone is trying to force you to stop liking Nintendo, don't listen to them. Don't even give them the satisfaction of a response. Just block them and move on. Anyone that says that is simply just very depressed and insecure about themselves, and by pouring their misery onto you, that says a lot more about them than it does about you. And the same thing applies to these videos. If you get a video and you're recommended that is just blatant propaganda, tap not interested and move on with your day. Do not give them the attention they crave. In fact, download the extension BlockTube so that you never have to see them again if you primarily watch videos on your computer. And this applies to my fellow creators as well. If you get a really rude comment about you, simply delete it and save you both the time. Or just simply do what I do and hide them from your comment section entirely. Don't let the meltdowns of insecure people that have nothing better to do rob you of what you hold to your heart. Of course, that's not to say you should ban every single person that disagrees with you on anything. I'm talking about the people that are commenting on your work in bad faith and want to bring you down to their level. You cannot control the entire internet. That is a fool's errand. People are going to continue to do whatever they can for attention until the end of time. But at the very least, you can control your own space. And cleaning out the trash is going to do much better things to your mental health than seething about the trash's very existence. And that's pretty much all I have to say about this topic. TLDR, grifters do not deserve your time of day because their existence is purely meant to take advantage of shallow minds and not to actually engage in a meaningful discussion. They are only given as much power as you let them have, and simply ignoring them is going to do much better for you in the long run than letting them take your love of video games away from you. It's as simple as that. And especially do not give attention to the people that are just going to be like, Nintendo is dead, the Switch 2 is a failure. Everyone hates Nintendo now. Nintendo fans are all awful because they are only doing it to get an extra piece of ad revenue. That is their motivation. And making videos talking about how awful they are and how you want them to go away does nothing but bring more attention to them and encourage their behaviors. This video is certainly not going to help in that regard, but at the very least, I hope my message here was a lot more thoughtful and nuanced than, "Hey, people are being so mean to Nintendo." If that is you, just take a chill pill and play some video games. These people don't matter. Again, do not harass anyone I talked about today. I'm not here to start drama. I'm not here to start a movement. Just to leave these people alone, let them do their thing, and by commenting on their channels, I mean, you're only helping them out in the algorithms even more. And that's a wrap on my arc about Nintendo discourse. I don't plan to touch on this topic again for a really long time, if at all, because at this point, I feel like everything you could say about it has been said. Just enjoy video games on your own terms, don't let people get to you, and if they do, block them and save yourself the time and the stress. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. My next video about a YouTuber is going to be a lot more positive than these last two. I've had a lot of thoughts on the mind about one channel in particular that I really want to get out there, and I have a lot more lighthearted videos I want to make about gaming over here. So if you're only here for the discourse, get out! God bless and have a good one. Bye-bye!
If you thought that the internet was a small bubble, and you thought that the YouTube space, the giant, massive YouTube world, was just its own quiet and private bubble, a vocal minority, you need to reevaluate, because Nintendo fans are in for the rudest awakening.
No, I missed.